in the locker room.
There's never been a team at Maryland, at LSU, and the Chicago Sky where she didn't have some sort of locker room problem with her teammates. People don't enjoy playing with her. Maurice, I do think this has a chance to be different because of her competition with Caitlin Clark. She's being offered, I wouldn't call it a layup, but she's being offered a chance to play on a team that's a championship caliber team.
What if the most compelling WNBA plot revolved around Angel Reese's life away from the spotlight? A history of altercations in the locker room, surprise departures, and a rivalry with Caitlin Clark that may have motivated more than anybody knew is now being pieced together by insiders. IT gets more difficult to ignore the deeper you examine.
A cancerous tumor. A cancerous tumor. Yeah, you know what the Chicago Sky decided to do? Cut said tumor out of their organization and ship it, put it on a cargo ship, and send it down to Atlanta. She's your problem now. For a ham sandwich and a bag of Pringles. I guess it's a can of Pringles.
The narrative surrounding Angel Reese changed from being a misunderstood superstar to something much more complex and potentially uncomfortable for fans who had been supporting her every move without questioning what was actually going on behind closed doors when several WNBA analysts finally stopped being courteous and started being honest.
We got our first trade of the season. Let's go. Angel Reese is being traded to the Atlanta Dream after 2 seasons in Chicago. Who do you think won the trade?
I mean, the only thing with Chicago swapping picks is next year's draft, aren't they eligible to be swapped their pick too?
With these trades, sometimes face value of trades, you're like, of course, this team won. But then you got to figure out who the picks are. So I feel like evaluating a trade actually is later down the line. Obviously, I think Atlanta wanted another big. They're sticking with playing the 2 bigs. They're going to put Angel Reese with Brianna Jones, who you love. You love playing against Brianna Jones. I love Bree Jones.
Because for the past 2 years, the public discourse has been carefully controlled, filtered through highlight reels, social media confidence, and just enough controversy to keep everyone interested without ever compelling the league to address the more important question, namely, how a player can be so gifted and visible and yet leave a trail of tension in the locker room that follows her like an unshakable shadow.
A WNBA championship before Caitlin Clark, that's really going to enhance her brand, give her some standing around the league, and I think that opportunity may, for a short term, bring out the best in Angel Reese.
I think Angel Reese, listen clear. You better take full advantage of this opportunity with the Atlanta Dream. Okay, you are playing with Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. They are all stars, 20-point per game scores. All you have to do is be the role player that you were born to be.
Then all of a sudden, the floodgates opened. Analysts took a seat and began making connections between seemingly obvious pieces of information. And once those connections were made, the image that resulted was neither subtle nor flattering, and it is most definitely not something that can be written off as coincidence, poor luck, or even media narratives, because various teams, new coaches, and entirely different surroundings continued to exhibit the same pattern.
So Reese's teammates come out anonymously and have a few things to say on her departure. Some of these quotes are brutal, it says. There has been so much apprehension between the team and her. Everyone is happy. They don't have to deal with her various controversies, whether she brings on herself or otherwise. There is no love lost. And when Angel returns for a game with her new team, she will be the enemy. But everyone with the Sky is very happy she is.
Excuses typically run out at that point, because you can attribute a terrible scenario to timing, chemistry, or coaching. However, it ceases to resemble circumstances and begins to resemble a pattern that follows the player when 3 quite distinct scenarios begin to convey the same story. And that's when things start to get interesting, because the discussion went beyond tension in the locker room or conflicts between personalities to IT developed into something much more profound, directly related to her decisions made on the court, her priorities during games, and, most significantly, her ongoing rivalry with Caitlin Clark. In competitive games, players pad numbers, but this is the kind that occurs when the scoreboard has already revealed the outcome and one player is still on the court, chasing milestones. Those are only relevant if you are attempting to demonstrate something other than victory, because, according to the panel, there were times when games were practically over during her tenure with the Chicago Sky. Blowouts that ought to have been about progress or just wrapping things up, but the emphasis shifted to getting double-doubles and making sure the stat sheet looked good, even though the scoreboard did not.
We have had the curtain peeled back on Angel Reese and how the Chicago Sky felt about her. And my goodness, wow. Her teammates were not having her anymore. They were done with her. The Chicago Sky were done with her. It's unbelievable. Yahoo Sports, Chicago Sky have officially parted ways with Angel Reese, shipping the star forward to the Atlanta Dream in exchange first-round draft picks in 2027, 2028.
Since stat padding has been around for as long as sports themselves, it may not seem like a crime in professional sports on its own, but the context is what made it explosive. IT was suggested that the numbers had more to do with keeping up with Caitlin Clark's numbers and preserving the appearance of a rivalry that was growing more and more one-sided on the court than they were with personal pride or performance bonuses. At that point, teammates began to notice. Nothing disturbs a locker room more quickly than the perception that one player is playing a different game than the others while the team is being managed. This tension not only remained internal but also began to impact how the team performed during actual games. The exits followed. The clearest indication that something deeper is broken is typically when players start to distance themselves, ask for trades, or express that they no longer want to be a part of the same environment, because it involved more than just roster changes and basketball decisions. The Marina Mabra scenario became one of those signals that IT was about wanting to leave what experts often referred to as a growing circus. This is when the story takes a different turn since, according to reports, things became worse in year 2 rather than getting better.
Look for Angel Reese. She's still in her rookie season. Not a rookie season. She's still on a rookie contract. And and they don't want anything to do with her. She's a cancer when it comes to the locker room. Angel Reese is all about Angel Reese. All right. Hashtag Angel Reese drama. All right. There's drama follows her, and it's that star mentality. She thinks that she's a star. She was the number 7 pick, could have easily been the number 8 pick in the 2024 draft. And this is good news for Camila Cardoso.
The team experimented with putting Reese in a point-forward role, which caused controversy among pundits and fans alike. They questioned how a player with little expertise in playmaking and perimeter shooting was suddenly being positioned as a key offensive initiator. IT felt more like experimenting under duress than strategy, as though the company was attempting to make something work that was fundamentally incompatible. Additionally, when things don't work out in basketball, they almost never go unnoticed. Their failures are audible, obvious, and frequently have repercussions that extend into the locker room. The behavioral problems began at that point. The situation is already irreparable by the time it is made public. Then came the turning point from skepticism to disbelief, because, aside from what transpired later, Reese's claimed absence during the team's final season owing to a back problem would not raise suspicions. She was spotted traveling, having fun, and projecting an image that did not correspond with someone who was sidelined by injury. This immediately caused a perception issue that no amount of justification could completely resolve. Perception frequently turns into reality in professional sports.
Man, oh man, this Yahoo Sports article on this whole Angel Reese debacle is insane. It is insane. Apparently, the teammates wanted nothing to do with her going forward. And to be honest, I already said that. You know, it was a lot of like anonymous sources in this, which kind of be pushing me away. But being that I've been following this, I know there's certain things in here that it was obvious to see Ariel Atkins, regardless if they moved on from her too or not. She didn't want nothing to do with her.
And once that impression takes hold, it quickly spreads. At one point, experts started posing a topic that, while initially seeming quite ridiculous, became more difficult to dismiss the more you considered it. How is it possible for a player to succeed individually early in their career, gain attention, and yet be traded by a team before their third season without seeking a trade? Teams typically don't work like that. Organizations frequently put up with challenging personalities if the performance warrants it and the player's contribution to victory overcomes the difficulties. Because Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray are players who understand their roles, are familiar with the system, and do not need another personality upsetting the balance they have established, a team's decision to move on quickly and for what many have described as minimal return sends a message that goes beyond them. As a result, Reese will not be able to redefine the team around herself. She is entering a circumstance where she must adjust. And since skill has never been the problem, it is the actual question that the analysts kept returning to. There is no question about rebounding, vitality, and physical presence.
Reese, I don't know who you pissed off to have this kind of an article about you here. Hold up. Let's pull it up. Let's pull this up. All right, look at the title. This is coming from Yahoo Sports. They were getting sick of her. Sky teammates reportedly celebrate Angel Reese's departure. Celebrate? They were celebrating that she left? Oh, no, you got to be a cancer to the locker room. Now, we already knew in 2024, you was just trying to outdo Caitlin Clark. All you cared about was your double-doubles. Let's keep it all the way real. You would be the only starter out there with like a minute left calling for the ball. Thank the Lord deliberately put an end to that foolishness.
The question is whether she can function in an environment where team performance, not individual stat lines, determines success, and she is not the focal point of the organization. For players in that situation, history presents two very different results. Some athletes adapt, accept a complementary role, and ultimately help the team win at the highest level. Then there are players who find it difficult to relinquish their position as the center of attention, who oppose the change and wind up at odds with systems that were never designed with them in mind. The distinction between those two routes frequently boils down to awareness, nor skill, nor work, but consciousness. Additionally, Reese's constant comparison to Caitlin Clark provides an additional dimension. IT may entail winning in a capacity that does not center on making a point, which is both easier and much more challenging at the same time. The conversation automatically changes if Atlanta is successful, competitive, and develops something reliable. However, the story solidifies into something far more enduring if the same tensions emerge, the same patterns recur, or teammates begin to react in the same manner as players did in earlier locations.